Good. Okay, excellent. And if you don't mind, okay, a couple of favors to ask of you. Number one, if you enjoy any part of today's webinar, please feel free, grab a little screenshot. I would love it if you would share it on social media somewhere, tag us, let us know you enjoyed it. I would be very grateful. And then if you also shoot me an email, I will send you 5 of my most recent articles, including our Ruck article, all these other ones, all in PDF. They're much easier to read than you find them on social media. So if you would do that for us, I'm not going to send you just 1 or 2. I'm going to send you 5 articles. I really want to get these articles out there. I would love to share it with you. So if you don't mind helping me grow my page a little bit and grow our following here on our webinars, I would appreciate it. Even those of you watching the recording, you can do this anytime, let's say, I don't know, next week or so. And shoot me an email, robertlinkle@gmail.com. Say, hey, I posted, and I will find you on there and send you our packet of articles. All right, gang. Our goal today is to get through as much information as possible about some of the newer research on sarcopenia. Now, some of you are TOA Select members, and you're going to be like, Rob, we just heard you talk about this last week. When we talk about new research, we're talking about the last 2 years, 18 months to 24 months. That is new research. You know, the research cycles, they have university cycles are yearly, but in a lot of the like the government research, like when you have your CDCs and all these, they're usually in 2 to 3 year cycles. So when you hear like, oh, the average person that's age 70 and this and that, and the average person that dies and has this mortality rate, those are usually not done annually. They're usually done every 2 or 3 years. So we have some of that content now. The whole pandemic really kind of screwed up a lot of this, and it gives us some information, and we have some kind of trickling in. So I wanted to share a lot of that, and I wanted to share with you some of the, I guess I would say, greater concerns that we have with our older adult population, especially coming through this pandemic, the damage that has been done. But I also don't want to just sit here and harp on all the problems. I want to give you some solutions. So I'm going to give you my 5 favorite exercises that I am utilizing with my clients right now that's getting people very, very strong. I have it all set up right here behind me. It's nothing fancy. I know we've got tanks and ski ergs and battle ropes, and we've got all this stuff. I'm using all dumbbells, kettlebells, or fat bells. If you don't know what a fat bell is, it's a variation of a dumbbell that's a little bit healthier for your hands. I'm going to demo with all of them just so you can kind of see them all in there. And whatever ability level or capability level your clients have, you should be able to do them. I am going to show a revision and a progression of each one. So you're really going to get 15 different looks at some of these exercises as we go. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, if there's any part of this webinar that you really enjoy, please feel free to grab a screenshot, post it on the internet, let me know how much you enjoyed it, hopefully, and we'll go from there. I'll be able to send you some articles. Okay, looking at sarcopenia here, this is a chart my good friend Arnar Hafstadson out from Iceland. I've gone out to Iceland 3 times now to present and teach. And buddy, I'm working right now.
Do you know where Mom is?
No, she's back there somewhere, but I'm working. Go on. Sorry. The beauty of having the studio and the gym at home is I get that a lot, where they come out and they're like, do you know where Mom is? And I'm like, I'm in the middle of a webinar, kid. All right. So Arnar, my buddy Arnar, I have gone out there 3 times to present with him. And I get to present usually 2 or 3 times a year virtually to their students out there. I think, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, he and I had a talk, and he was talking about designing and like developing a strength and conditioning program in Iceland that they didn't have. They don't have anything that addresses the aging population. So he is, as far as I know, the only strength coach in the entire country, okay, 300,000+ people, that is working with older populations and doing research on this. So he's out of Reykjavik University. I have the privilege and the honor of presenting to his students next week. But this is a chart that he made. I've had a little bit of contribution here with some ideas, this and that. But I love this, where it kind of looks at the idea of what sarcopenia is. You start to lose your mobility and your ability to perform your ADLs, and what happens? We lose our independence. We start to withdraw from activities. We start to fall. We start to have issues with disabilities. We start to have issues with our cognitive function. Now we're losing connection with our family and our friends, and our lack of ability to go out. Now we're becoming depressed. I mean, it's just this trickle down effect. And this chart, I think, really addresses it pretty well. So I wanted to share this with you and give him full credit. He's probably on here. We're going to be watching this as well. Arnar, it's a great chart. I absolutely love it. It's going to be a big part of things moving forward. I would like to continue to teach with it, as you've given me permission to do so. Also on the bottom part there, looking at all the other effects that sarcopenia has on our society beyond just the individual. We're looking at all the different rehabilitation centers, different surgeries, medical, when you go into the ER, at any given moment, I think it's every 7 seconds, an older adult in the United States falls, and the majority of those end up in the ER. And so the ERs are backed up and filled with a lot of individuals who have fallen. A lot of those injuries are significant, or what they call severe, enough to where it's changing that individual's quality of life. And now that their quality of life has changed, that's affecting their independence with, now they are dependent on someone else to help take care of them. And we just get this whole trickle down effect. So it's addressing and involving the individual that is not strong and it is starting to weaken, but it's also trickling down as a negative effect to the rest of society. We are the front line. We are the ones that are direct and on the floor with our clients in-house. I'm going to show you a couple of videos today that I filmed this morning. So this isn't what I used to do. I still do this daily with my clientele. We are working, in a constant battle to overcome this. So yeah, sarcopenia sucks. It is not a good thing. It was officially coined as a disease in 2016. If you don't know who I am, I just want to throw my stuff up here for you. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time telling you about it. Bottom line, if this is your first time seeing me present, I am the oldest 41-year-old that you are ever going to meet. I just had my 15th surgery, including lower back surgery, lung cancer removal, lobectomy, thyroid cancer, thyroid removal. I've had 6 different surgeries on my hips, arthroscopies, hip replacements, dislocation, as you can see there, revisions. I've had a hernia repair. I've had 3 different carpal tunnel and wrist repairs. I had scar tissue removal, you name it, I've done it. I've got in. And the reason I'm telling you all this is not, I'll steal this line from Tony Robbins, not to impress upon you any kind of idea that I simply have the experience and the knowledge of going through this, but a research and like an obsessive mind where life has not, here's the line, life has not happened to me, it's happening for me. And I take that, and my wife takes that very serious in terms of the experiences we've had and the opportunity we've had to learn from that. And then my mindset that I'm constantly searching and reading and trying to find more materials on how to do this. This is what brings an opportunity for me to teach you, all of you, about working with older pops without being one. I've had the unique opportunity to go from being an NCAA athlete sponsored by Reebok, pursuing the Olympics, to learning how to walk again. And this was a great challenge for me as we went through, but I took notes and I wanted to learn and share, and I wrote about it and I do videos about it. And if you follow me on social media, Instagram, anywhere, I put up stuff either every day, every other day. I post a lot on trying to improve people's overall strength. So it gives you a little bit of an idea who I am, what I am here for, and hopefully you'll be able to get some really good takeaways. Now, I know we only have an hour here together, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but I don't want to assume that everybody knows what sarcopenia is, number one, and its partner, osteopenia, how they go hand in hand. So very, very quickly, and this is a slide that I do share often, I'm going to kind of just dive through this. Poverty of the flesh, sarcopenia, was coined that in 1989, an official disease declared in 2016. There are 2 types of sarcopenia. There's acute and chronic, and the 6-month marker is about where that line is. If you are on forced bed rest due to injury, surgery, disease, whatever it is, at about 6 months, if you're back in action and capable and able to start training again, you should, for the most part, be able to regain whatever ability it is, strength, balance, coordination, etc., that you lost. Beyond 6 months, the damage is more permanent. Doesn't mean that you can't get back or you can't improve, but are we going to get all the way back? So that's why it's pretty severe. That information, to be honest, is pretty old. It's actually a little outdated. I'm going to show you information that suggests that right around 10 to 14 days, sarcopenia starts to hit. And beyond that, damage is just gradually going to follow. So I would suggest it's closer to probably 3 months where damage is going to be kind of done and non-recoverable. And we'll see this in many different ways. Not only will strength decrease, but stability will. And of course, if those two go, then you're not going to be very powerful. Power is the number one ability that we have to coordinate and move our body quickly to keep it from falling down. So fall risks increase Because our bodies aren't moving, we start to develop osteopenia, softening of bone, osteoporosis, osteoporosis, the softening of bone to a point where it starts to get brittle and it breaks, so it's just more severe. Arthritis, where the joints start to swell, get aggravated, they're painful, they don't move as well. And then because all of those are occurring, we're not moving as much, we're gonna have an increase in body fat, typically creating a higher level of obesity, okay? Now, when you take osteopenia, sarcopenia, and obesity, and you collect all three of those and say what percentage of our population over the age of 50, older adults, experience all of those, it's 33%, okay? That means they have all three, osteosarcobesity, they have all three of those, let alone just one. And keep in mind, the majority that have sarcopenia, they have osteopenia. And the majority of those that have osteopenia also have sarcopenia. It's very difficult to have strong muscles and not have strong bones, or vice versa. Typically, there's got to be some kind of, immune deficiency or immune disease to make that occur. And in that case, usually the musculature, the individual will be training, and the musculature will be strong and good, but the bones are still soft. And that's where different medications and interventions that way will have to occur. But for the most part, and we're talking 99 point whatever percent, for the most part, if you get people to start resistance training, both their muscles and their bones will get dense and you will get out of this position, okay? So a lot of disease will come from this, and the very obvious ones, you'll see posture, thoracic spine, the forward head, the shuffling of the feet, all that really starts to come in, and you see that kind of typical, like untrained older body that just looks super frail. Frail is the best word that I could use for that. Now, when it comes to osteopenia or softening of bone, you won't be able to see this necessarily on people, and that's the hard part with this is unless you're doing regular testing with a DEXA scan, okay, where you're going to get in there and get some type of score from each appendage, and even each bone can get an individual score, and there's a scoring chart, etc., as I have listed here for you. If you're not +1 or higher down to -1, then you are osteopenia and or osteoporosis based. These are concerns for us moving forward. We used to not see anybody outside of age 50 or older with osteopenia. Now we're seeing earlier and earlier ages down to late 20s, early 30s. Let me say that again, late 20s, early 30s people, where we're seeing osteopenia, majority females, okay, majority females, because of our generational development and dependency on technology, where we're not as physically active or demanding as we could be or should be, okay? It's about the best that I can give you without stepping on too many toes to say why this is occurring, but we're just simply less active. Now, why is osteopenia found more in women 3 times over men? Men have testosterone in their body, which helps the bones stay a little more dense. Women have estrogen. That estrogen level starts to decrease earlier than men's testosterone levels do. And so the bone density levels will start to decrease earlier for females, plus the lack of testosterone or very small amounts of testosterone in their bodies already. And then as we get closer to menopause, we collectively females, as we get closer to menopause, you start to have even less estrogen. So the bones get even softer. So I could say probably 3 times greater for females, the importance of resistance training, especially as we age, because you're not working with everything that you need to really help you keep the bone density naturally, meaning like if you weren't training at all, you definitely need to stimulate this bone growth as much as possible. So men as well, of course, but women specifically. And you can see on the chart there on the top right, how drastic it is for female loss as it kind of comes down. Okay. And then right around the age of 35, for both bone density and muscle density, that's about our peak. That's about as naturally good as we're going to get. Naturally meaning not training, not using any supplements, not taking any steroids or anything else extra. Right around 30 to 35, that's the peak. That's when we're at our best. And you're going to see both of these charts, the bottom and the top, bone density and sarcopenia, kind of peak out and start to decline. The question becomes now, how drastic of a decline? That's where we come in as the coaches, the personal trainers, etc., or those of you that are on here listening because you want to learn about sarcopenia and how to implement it yourself. This is where resistance training really needs to come in. Now, ideally, we would have people resistance training in their early teens And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's a myth that you still believe that resistance training when you're younger is going to stunt your growth, that has 100% been proven false. There are no issues with growth plates and this and that. If you are excessively lifting, like your 10-year-old becomes a power lifter, then there could be some issues. Or if they are using something that is unnatural, if they're taking HGH or Dianabol or whatever else you're injecting them with, then they could have some issues. But naturally, this is not something that we have to worry ourselves about. My saying here is that sarcopenia is the linchpin for a poor quality of life. It's the thing that ties everything together. The weaker you are, the more likely you are to blank. Get cancer, fall, mortality, morbidity, obesity, whatever, name the disease, name the issue, whatever it is. If you're weak, it's more than likely going to happen to you. If you're stronger, it's less likely to happen to you. That's why many individuals that will get diagnosed with any disease, part of their homework or their instruction to help them rehabilitate is to add resistance training into their programming. We're talking about individuals that just got diagnosed with cancer and they're told, go lift weights, this is only going to help you, okay? So definitely have to change our mind a little bit about how we think about things and how valuable resistance training, increase of muscle mass is going to be. I'm going to continue to use the term resistance training. This can be done with kettlebells, dumbbells, bands, machines, barbells, you name it. As long as it's heavy and it's pulling back or providing some type of load in which gravity is acting upon, you are resistance training. Outside of that, I don't care what you do. I just need you to have load in your hands and move your body in a bunch of different directions. You will benefit from it. Okay. So let's talk about how quickly sarcopenia can address and kind of start to happen in the body. Now, both of these research studies are fairly new. The one on the left, 2020, the one on the right, 2021. These are research studies that looked at individuals. I'm not going to go too deep into them because these are ones that I have presented on and talked about in the past. Hop back on my social media. You'll see videos as recently as like 3 weeks ago where I talk about these if you'd like to know a little bit more about them. Bottom line is, individuals are asked to, who resistance train on a regular basis, and they're over the ages of 59 and 65 in the two selective groups, male and female, older adults. They walk on a regular basis and they resistance train at least 2 times a week. In one study, it's 3 times a week. They are asked at a certain point to take a forced bed rest or a simulated injury and to sit down. And during that time, they're allowed to get up, go to the bathroom, get food, come back to their chair. That's all they're allowed to do, okay? In one, it's due to the pandemic when they are asked to stay home for 14 days. And in these individuals' cases, they were permitted if they wanted to exercise, but they weren't allowed to leave their rooms. So none of them went to exercise. They needed the machines, they needed their coaches. Nobody exercised. So basically it was a forced rest, okay? Now, in as little as 10 days, these were the negative returns that we saw. Basically, the one on the right here, in 10 days, individuals had trained for 6 months to grow 3.7 pounds of muscle mass, or 1.7 kilos. And in 10 days of their bed rest, they lost it. They lost 3.3 pounds. Basically, everything that they had gained in 6 months, they lost in 10 days. Now, on the other one, on the left, for the 59-plus-year-olds, these individuals over 14 days lost 4% of their muscle mass, fat-free body mass. They lost 8% in muscular strength and 6% in power production. And so, again, kind of creating the same environment where the coaches go, let's see what we can get back with them in the following 2 weeks. Let's see if we can rebuild it. In both cases, the answer was 0, okay? So it literally takes you 6 months to build this strength. And in as little as 10 days to 14 days, you can lose it or start to lose a significant chunk of it. Now, I personally had this experience just having a surgery almost 3 weeks ago. I had 7 days where I was not allowed to move any weights. I wasn't allowed to get my heart rate over 80 beats per minute. I had a brace and a wrap on, and my ability to move was very, very limited. And the negative return I had from that, not only could I feel my muscle mass shrinking, but I wasn't sleeping well because I had no reason to be tired. I wasn't happy or wasn't in the best mindset because I didn't have the hormonal response and the stimulus that I'm used to having on my daily exercise. My whole routine was thrown off. My body was like, why aren't you doing what you normally do? So my joints started to ache. Like my body had this pretty drastic response to it. And granted, I'm an individual who is fairly active and all of a sudden has that pulled away. We're looking at individuals who have not been active at all and years are starting to stack up. So the reason I share my experience with it is if that started to happen to me in as little as 10 days, imagine what the body is going through after pandemic, March 2020. Okay, where do we go from here? Hey, it's going to be 2 weeks. No, wait, it's going to be 2 months. No, wait, it's going to be more like 2 years where things are going to be very different and you're not going to go back to your regular routine. Let's look at the damage being done here. It's pretty drastic. If this happened in 10 to 14 days, okay, it's extreme damage in my opinion. We've gone beyond the idea of just atrophy, which the little chart here in the middle shows you. You're in full-blown atrophy or muscle shrinking after about 7 days. And then at that 10-day marker, you're now sarcopenic. The difference from that is just muscle fibers shrinking, but function has not been lost yet. Like I could pick up 20 pounds at 7 days, and then at 10 days, I can't. I can only pick up 15. That's the difference from atrophy to sarcopenia. I could get my arms 100% over my head all the way to 180, and now I can only reach to 170 or 165 because I've lost the mobility and the ability and the strength to lift my arms there. That is sarcopenia. I used to be 6'3", now I'm 6'1" after a decade of not lifting weights. That is sarcopenia, okay? Your body's not capable, able, or set in a position to where it can do what it used to be able to do because of your loss of muscle mass, bone density, etc. So understanding that it happens that quick, okay, and here's a little breakdown of that. Not only did that happen physically, but now we have the mental return that goes with it. Sarcopenia does affect both the mind and the body because you got to think about, number one, I talked about the hormonal response back to the body, what that does, and in your ability to be social, interactive, and like go and do the things you can do because you're confident in your body's ability to do so. Well, now you take 2 weeks to 2 years off and your golf that you used to do, your daily walk you used to be able to do, all of these things, our individuals are no longer feeling confident or capable of going and doing that. So there's a real thing called COVID stress syndrome, which occurred from individuals basically being by themselves. A lot of older adults have either lost their family, outlived their spouse, etc., and majority or a good chunk of them are alone, or were put into a position where family could not come and visit them, and thus they were forced to be alone. And so this occurred. Fear of getting infected, fear of touching anything, the fear of going outside, total depression. I'm not going to the gym. That's the last place I'm going to go. We still have folks. You know, we are now 2.5+ years, okay, from March 2020, where individuals are still fearful to return to the gym and touch and share equipment. Now, granted, some states this is not so much, and others it is. Being here in California, it's still very present. We still have cities that are now going back to wearing masks and asking people not to touch things indoors, etc. So this kind of gives you a little idea of how and why we say this is recent research, because of COVID and the March 2020 until now. We have new charts, we have new research, there's all new, COVID, whatever that was, what was it called? COVID stress syndrome was not a thing prior to that. This is a new issue that we're dealing with, and just kind of understanding and seeing how significant ability, bone density, and strength can be lost 10 to 14 days, and for me to just say, imagine what happens now after 2+ years. I think this research that's going to be coming out here in the next 6 to 12 months is going to show obviously record highs, but much, much higher than we can even imagine. I think people are in very, very bad shape. And so arming you now going forward with stuff, how and what are we going to do? So I had the privilege of being able to participate as a reviewer for a research project where an individual and group of individuals reviewed pretty much every article in NSCA, ACSM, LJCC, like all the medical articles, Harvard, Stanford, all of them, all the research articles that had older adult resistance training, strength training, silver strength, silver sneaker, anything that revolved around the idea of older people strength training. They reviewed almost 2,000 articles. And in those 2,000 articles, they were able to trickle it down from one article referencing another article. They went to that one, reference the next one, trickle down, to where there were about 20 articles that really gave all the answers, okay? And a lot of these, as you kind of go through them, I did breakdowns here for you on there. I'm not going to go slide by slide, but I wanted to include them here on the PDFs, which I'll email to the list of everybody that registered. You'll get these presentations. You feel free to look through these. These give you a greater detail about each one of these that they looked at, with machines to ADLs to different type of tempos that they lifted on, traditional versus plate loaded or pivot points. I mean, they're very interesting studies. And as you go through all of them, okay, they kind of give you a different look and a little bit different feel of where our industry has kind of worked towards in leading us to two specific styles of strength training that are going to benefit our clients best. Number one is a combination of power and eccentric strength training, which I'm going to show you here on the left and give you an outline. And then the second is called HIRT training, high intensity resistance training, okay? Now the first one here on the left, I'm going to say the majority of the time, because I do like to change things up on occasion. I do like to challenge our clients in different ways, all right? But for the majority of the time, majority of our workouts, we are going to do what we call pure strength in the first half or the first 20 minutes of our workout. And then we will do our metabolic conditioning with resistance training, AKA high intensity resistance training or HIRT training second, for the secondary 10 to 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is that you have, okay? Some of you are working 30-minute sessions, some work 60. We in-house, we work 50. I do a 10-minute workout and a 20-20 split, kind of typically is what we look at. All right, so your strength training, pure strength training, is to be done first, ideally. We are gonna shoot anywhere between 8 and 15 reps, okay? Somewhere around in there. Again, I can't get too specific because it depends on the client, the training outcome, yada, yada. But I'll give you a range, 8 to 15 reps. Whatever it is that you're gonna do, okay? Here is what I call the secret sauce that really helps our clients benefit, both from a power standpoint and an eccentric strength training standpoint, okay? Mind you, this comes from all of these collective articles trickling down to the point of saying what's almost everyone else referring to being successful. It is that they need balance and strength and coordination, yada, yada, yada. And the best ways to do that are power training, eccentric strength training, and higher intensity resistance training. Here's what I'm showing you. I just take the power and the eccentric and I marry them together, because I get my clients 2 days a week. I'm not going to do a 6-week power phase and then do a 6-week strength phase and then do a 6-week high endurance. I'm going to give them a little bit of everything now and hope that they get the benefit. We don't have seasons. We don't in season, off season, out season. They're always in life season. So I need to train them for the best of life, which is, I feel like this is a good fit for that, okay? All right, so let's take a goblet squat as our example, and we are gonna do 12 reps with a weight. We are gonna use an RPE, a rate of perceived exertion. If you need instruction on how to gear that load and select it, please go to my YouTube, and I have a video in there. It's about 7 minutes, and I talk about how to select load. If you don't currently subscribe, I would love it if you would subscribe. I'm really trying to grow my channel, okay? Shameless plug. All right, so head over there, check that out. I explain how to select load. There's 3 criteria you need. I talk about it there. All right, so somewhere between a 4 and an 8, or if you want to correlate it to a percentage, it's 40 and 80% of a 1 rep max. Yes, it's a big chunk, but it depends on your client's ability. If they're a little bit newer, go towards the 4. If they're a little bit more of a veteran, go towards the 8, okay? We are gonna ask them to lift the first half of their 12 reps as dynamically, explosively concentric as possible with a 2-second negative. I'll dive into that in just a second, okay? And then for the second half, I'm gonna ask them to eccentrically slow way down and just what we call suffer good, like absorb a 4-second negative and a 1-second positive coming up. And because the load is light enough, it's not an 8, 9, or a 10, okay? 9 or 10, etc. Because it's not that heavy, they should be able to move it really, really quick, exhaust their anaerobic state, just get as dynamic, as explosive, just work on that first little section for those first 6 reps. And then for the second 6, be able to slow everything way down. Because they're a little bit tired from moving so quick in the first half, the eccentric benefit of working this lighter load in the second half will be very, very beneficial, okay? So let's give an example with this in some real time. Okay, let me go here. All right, so got my kettlebell. Client's doing a set of 12. I'm holding in my goblet. So we talked about a 2-second negative on the way down to a 1 or less second positive. Okay, 6 reps. I'm going to come down 2, 1, up as quick as I can. 2, 1, up as quick as I can. And I'm going to do that for 6 reps. For the second 6, the second half, I'm going to come down 4, 3, 2, 1, up for 1. 4, 3, 2, 1, up for 1. And I'm working a 4-second negative now with a 1-second positive. So when I talk about your criteria for how the lifts need to be done, tempo is the key. Tempo is the one volume that we forget about all the time. We're always worried about reps and sets and load and even recovery, but we don't talk about tempo. And the tempo is what's going to dictate if the lift is too heavy or too light based on how fast you can move it or how eccentrically slow you can move it. So we need to pay more attention to that as we kind of work through, specifically with the older adult, because there's a lot to benefit here for them of moving a lighter load, very dynamic, very explosively for the first half of their lifts, okay? Down 1, 2, and up just as fast and as quick as possible, less than a second if they can. That is the goal. And then for the second half of the lifts, all right, we've worked as explosively as we're gonna get. We're not gonna get any faster than we did on probably the first 3 reps, but let alone the first half. Now let's slow it way down. 4 seconds, maybe even 5 seconds, like really slow that eccentric stretching down phase. Remember, it's not always the first part of the lift, but in this example, it is. That's the eccentric phase. A 4, maybe even a 5 second if you really want to make them suffer. Remember, it's suffer good, okay? This is good suffering. And then just coming up under a 1 second tempo. Not as fast as they can, just 1 second, okay? And if they can do that all the way through and they're challenged, then the load is good. And we can maybe improve it a little bit until we get to the point where they're like, I can just barely do this, and then we're great. But if they can't, if the 4-second negative down is good, but they take 4 seconds to come up or even 3 seconds, it's too heavy. They got to go lighter, right? So if we do that in the pure strength section, that is kind of the secret sauce where our clients can work on getting pretty explosive and pretty dynamic. And then now that we're tired, let's really focus on strength. And if you try this with your clientele, it can be done on machines, it can be done on free weights, it can be done with pulleys, it can be anything, whatever you want, right? Try this tempo change and see how they respond. Give it 4 to 6 weeks and just see how they respond. Because moving that load dynamic and quickly, it teaches their muscles, the Golgi tendon, that fire synapse, it like teaches the body how to move quick. Oh, this is how I need to fire and move fast. In the beginning, it's not very fast, but you'll actually see them start to get more dynamic. It's very cool to see that process because now their muscles know how to react and to move their musculature quick when I step forward or quick when I move my hand up. And now they have reaction skills and they have the ability to go, hey, I'm falling, I'm recognizing that I'm falling and I need to throw my foot behind me quickly without breaking my ankle or snapping my leg because I have osteoporosis, right? And be able to rescue this fall. So it's a powerful thing to train power. It's doing way more than you think. That's why on a daily basis, we do something in-house here where our clients get to let go of the implement they're lifting. Okay, I'll say that again. They get to let go of the implement that they're lifting. I don't mean they drop it on the ground. I mean they get to throw something, slam something, toss something, chuck something. They get to throw things so they don't have to decelerate it. Because it's great to move a weight as fast as you can, but it's never going to be truly as fast as you can if you have to worry about slowing it down and catching it at the top. But if I literally get to just lift it up and let go, like imagine doing a dumbbell snatch and then throwing the dumbbell through the roof, you get to let go of it. That's more powerful than just doing the snatch and then bringing it back down. You may think, hey, I'm moving this as quick as I can, but internally you are slowing that weight down so you can catch it and then return it back down to do your next rep. But if I just said, let it rip, take this sandball, head outside and snatch it, just don't catch it, don't take your eyes off it, let it hit the ground, pick it up, snatch it again. We do a release drill like that every time our clients are in here, okay? Because that's how much we enjoy the power aspect of this. And people like throwing stuff. They like slamming things. They like making noise. They like getting to unload. It's a fun experience. So the investment in some hyperwear sandbells or a sandball or a sandbag or something that you can throw or, you know, in jam balls, something you can slam on the ground, probably a pretty good benefit, okay? Now on the flip side, after you do a couple rounds of this, 10 to 20 minutes, somewhere in there, Now we're going to jump over into the HIRT, high intensity resistance training. Second half, we're going to go anywhere between 8 and 20-ish reps, if not a little bit more. Our more experienced lifters, if you train in some of my groups, Jerry, I see you on here, a couple of our lifters that are other trainers and our affiliates that join us for workouts. You know, we'll do sets of 30, sets of 40 sometimes. It just depends on the workout and who we're working with, etc. But to give you a safe range, 8 to 20 is pretty good. Anywhere from 3 to 6 exercises. These exercises are going to be more complex, multiple joints, bigger muscle groups. They need to be worked earlier in the workout in this section, okay? And then if you are going to put some smaller, more auxiliary-based lifts, tricep extension, bicep curl, calf pumps, etc., they need to be a little bit later. You want the bigger, more complex movement patterns early, simple auxiliary-based a little bit later. Why? Because I want more attention, whatever remaining energy we have, I want that to occur during the bigger complex movement patterns so I can take advantage of maximizing the growth at that time. Auxiliary one joint doesn't require as much attention as multiple joints up front. More coordination, more reaction, more attention, more stability, more joints to try to stabilize, etc. Okay? And you can do this in rounds. Go down the list of exercise. We'll do a goblet squat, and then we'll do a push press, then we'll do a bent over row, and then we'll do a high pull, and then we'll do a walking lunge, right? And then we'll go back to the top and we'll go through it again. We'll go back to the top and we'll go through it again. And that's 3 rounds, 3 times through the list. Give you an opportunity to do that. So anywhere between 2 to 5 rounds, 3, 4 rounds, whatever you want, okay? And then at the end, if you want, you could do a little finisher. We'll usually do some curls and extensions, auxiliary work at the end. So it gives you an idea of your higher intensity resistance training, not to be confused with HIIT, high intensity interval training. These are 2 different things. And a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that until about 6 years ago. Like I found out there was a whole different thing, even though I've been doing HIRT training since 2004 with my clients. I just thought we called it HIIT. We were using weight and we were working at higher intensities and we were creating these undulations, these peaks and valleys. We were working our clients pretty hard. But it turns out high intensity interval training, high intensity resistance training are 2 different things. High intensity interval training is not done with load or very, very little load, like a battling rope, maybe a light medicine ball, a tire or something like that. Those are very heavy. Not the best example, but it's done with the skier, it's done with the rower, it's done with the bike, it's done with bear crawls, it's done with running, it's done with inertia waves, done with things that are condition based or just body weight, okay? Pull-ups, chin-ups, push-ups, that kind of thing. And that's done at high intensities and recover, high intensity recover, etc. Now the HIRT, high intensity resistance training, is done the same way, just with load in hand. So you'll squat and press and you'll hinge and high pull and you'll lunge and curl and you'll step up and press or whatever it is, right? You're kind of creating complexes and different variety of movement patterns that are going to challenge people and encourage them to work at a higher capacity, but also move a little bit of load or medium amount of load and kind of get the best of both worlds. Can I truly create a strength and conditioning program without just doing strength and then just doing conditioning, which is the old style of lifting? Get on a chest press machine, do a set of 12, wait 90 seconds, do it again, wait 90 seconds, do it again, move to the next exercise. That takes an hour. Now I got to go walk on the treadmill for an hour. I'm at the gym for 2 hours. Or I come in and do a 20-minute HIRT cycle. I work 3 times as hard. I work 3 times as many calories. I benefit my body so much more by doing that. And I'm done in 35, 40 minutes with a warm up and a cool down, you know, grabbing a water and saying hi to my buddy on the way out. So these 2 formats are very efficient. They're very effective, great results, and they can be done with older adults. I cannot stress it enough, because here's the thing. All of you individuals that look at my social media think that I only recruit former Olympic athletes to come and train in my gym, because you're like, there's something special about the people you train, Rob. My people won't do that. Do you know how often I hear that? Then I come to your facility and I ask your people to do it. They can do it. You guys just aren't asking them. You girls just aren't asking them to do it. You got to ask them to do it. And if you're like, I don't know how to do it, then teach them. I need to know what cues and what progressions. That's what I'm here for. That's what other coaches are here for, is to teach you how to do that with older adults. Now you have to be very strategic. You have to be progressive. You have to go a little bit slower. What you could teach a 20-year-old in 3 days is going to take maybe the average older adult who's never lifted weights a month to do, but that's okay. But they are capable of doing it. And no, I do not recruit Olympic athletes. All of my clients, every single one of them, regular folks, came to me in terrible shape. But I've built them up and we've shown them the way, and it's taken years because everybody thinks, oh, Rob just got a new lady and in 2 weeks, she's a superstar. It was 2 years, gang. It was 2 years of working with Joyce to get her off of her walker, off of her cane, and pushing the tank. 2 years. But people think, oh, she must have been in the Olympics in 1956, throwing the hammer with Harold Conley. That is not the case, okay? It's not the case here. You just got to know what to do with them. And so this is a strategy that works. Don't be afraid of it. Learn how to implement it. I've shown you all the articles to go and look at. The research is there. If you want to learn more about how you do it, come to our website. Again, another shameless plug, but you're here. I want to share with you, okay? All right, my exercises. I got about 20 minutes, better than I thought I was going to do. These are the 5. I'm going to come back here and demonstrate them for you, and we'll see a couple. This was filmed today. So our group here, this is the first time I've had 5 in-house. It was actually really fun. We had one of our clients mess up on her schedule, and we were only supposed to have 4, and she came an hour later, had actually turned around and was going to drive out, and I'm like, no, we'll make this work. Okay, I usually just have 4 in-house, but the workout was perfect for today. So simple little things like this, where this is just our warm-up. We're doing 2 kettlebell squats, 2 high pulls, and 2 overhead presses, and then 4 and 4 and 4 and 6, 6, 6, 8, 8, 8, 10, 10, 10. That was their warm-up. But all 3 of those movements were in the workout that we got into, and they're in these 5 that I'm going to teach you, okay? So we're going to dive into these here in just a second, and then I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about our programming, what we do there, and then we'll head out, okay? All right, so I'm going to jump back here, step out. Let me make sure this is full screen. If you have questions while we're going, feel free to throw them in the chat. I got my window open there, okay? I'm happy to answer and stick around a little bit. We don't have to call it right at noon. If you have to go, you have a client, I totally get it. All right, number 1. We call them gunslingers, okay? Gunslinger. Basically, it's a clean and press. You can use kettlebells if your clients are capable of using kettlebells. Not everybody likes cleaning a kettlebell. The transition of the bell can hurt the wrist. It's technical. Totally get it. I like the kettlebell variation because there's a lot of grip strength inclusion. There's a lot of coordination. There's a reaction time component to it. You add a lot more by teaching someone to manipulate and clean a kettlebell without hurting themselves versus cleaning a dumbbell where they don't really have to do much other than turn the load over, okay? So there is a benefit to trying to do this. It doesn't just look cooler when you see people are like, I only do kettlebell work. Like, you can use dumbbells too, that's fine. But there is a little bit more benefit to using those if you can do it. If not, we use the dumbbell, but notice with the dumbbell, weights on the bottom and the top, okay? Now, think about the common injury in the hand. Most of our injuries occur in the hand, forward and back. Carpal tunnel, any of our arthritic responses, typically forward and back. So I like to use fat bells. If you haven't seen these before, it's basically like a hollowed out kettlebell with a handle in the middle. You see that? Okay, a little closer, there you go. There's the handle, okay? So now the load is manipulated all the way around my hand. Think of like a hex bar. When you stand inside it, the weight's all the way around you rather than just in front of you if you're using a barbell. Kind of the same idea. And same weight as that dumbbell I was just showing you. You can see the difference where the weight sticks out this far, but with the fat bell, that's a greater range of motion. If I were to bring the weight to my chest, we have one called Tate presses or French presses, where the weight is not only distributed around my hand, but it's smaller in size and I can move it in a greater range, okay? So that's why I want to show you all 3, whatever variation, whatever you're going to use. I'm going to demo mostly with dumbbells because that's what most everybody has, okay? Now, I put on there 2 kettlebells, 2 dumbbells, 2 fat bells, because ideally you would have them use both implements. I'm going to demo with one so I can point with the other hand as we go through this. So we call it a gunslinger because the cues make a little more sense if you use the terminology of a gunslinger, okay, back in the old time. Now, if you learn to do cleans with a barbell, the barbell design is to hip hinge, to counter the pendulum weight of the bar, to throw your hips forward a little bit and pull the shoulders back. So you traject the bar up and back to your clavicle and then rotate and receive the bar. The bar moves in a little J pattern, a slight little J pattern to where you receive it, but your body kind of manipulates around it. When you clean a kettlebell or a dumbbell, it's very, very different, okay? Not only do we turn the hands to a neutral grip, but instead of pulling up, we pull back. And so you're going to hinge, slow motion. I'm going to hinge just to the top of the knee, power clean position. As I'm dragging the weight up the frame of my body, I'm just framing my torso as I come up. This is where the change occurs. And my elbow is going to go back. Now, imagine I've got my pistol on my hip here, and I'm going to pull it from the holster. And then from this position, I want to shoot my pistol in the air. So I'm going to rotate my elbow underneath. Now my pistol's up, and I'm going to fire it as I press. And then I'm going to return it, and then I'm going to reholster by pulling my elbow back and framing back down. See why we call it a gunslinger, right? Really has nothing to do with guns. It's just the movement pattern. It teaches you not to bicep swing this thing out in front of you or to try to clean it like a barbell. It teaches you to pull back. As soon as you learn to pull back, this whole movement pattern changes, and it's so much easier. You go from trying to swing curl a 10 to where a 70-year-old female can clean a 20, and you're like, whoa, what happened? And she's like, I figured it out, bro. And I'm like, yes, you did. I mean, that's a drastic difference, okay? It's a drastic difference. So as you practice this pattern, 2 dumbbells, okay? Hinge, up and under, the elbows go back, back and under. I'll punch and reach overhead, and then return. So repetitive reps, hinge, up and under, punch, back, and return. Weight of choice, implement of choice, etc. Teach your clients with either fat bells or dumbbells in the beginning. As they get the movement pattern down, if you want to, work towards kettlebells, you can. All right. To reduce the difficulty, let's look at a step back. Instead of trying to manipulate the momentum, we can just simply slow it down, what we call a muscle clean and press or a curl and press, where I'm going to do an RDL, I'm going to do a hammer curl, and I'm going to do an overhead press. And so we still get the complex movement pattern, the hinge, the curl, and or if you can, when we do curls, we drop our elbows back. So we're actually training our clients to do that kind of gunslinger action. It's just slower. So they'll RDL, they'll shrug curl, and then they'll overhead press. And as we get better at those 3 patterns, we'll start to increase the tempo a little bit. Next thing you know, they're kind of doing the gunslinger, which is exactly what we want, right? We want to be able to go right into that. Okay, I see a couple of hands up. I'm not going to take verbal questions right now, but if you throw your question in the chat, I'll be able to come over and answer it, or just keep your digital hand up. And when we get done, remember what your question's on, and I'll cue you on and turn your mic on, and you guys can go from there, okay? And then to increase the difficulty, obviously you just go heavier and or you go faster, work towards the kettlebells. That's going to be a good one. Okay, the suitcase. So I love doing suitcase carries more than a farmer carry, because the benefit that you get from carrying weight on one side is like 3-fold if I have even weight on both, okay? Now, a lot of our clients, if they have gait issues, they will feel better carrying a weight in each hand, okay? So let's do this first, okay? Here's the poor gait, so just watch, right? Here's the poor gait, right? It's the waddle, the toes are out, the heels are in, the forward head, the round shoulders. I'm taking 6 to 8 inch steps. Now, if I give them 1 kettlebell, they take that waddle, and now there's a hobble to it because they've got a weight pulling them on one side. I'm selling a little bit, but you guys get it, okay? If I give them 2 weights, they feel more grounded because the weight's pulling them to the ground, but they're also balanced. And so we'll see that waddle actually start to open up a little bit. When someone has to engage and recruit with more musculature, okay, they'll actually perform a better walking gait. And so we've noticed that the more weight we give people to carry, like the better their gait gets, because they don't feel like they're going to fall down. They feel pretty grounded. Now, I'll start people with farmer carries, and 10 pounds in each hand, 5 pounds in each hand, whatever. And we'll do our carries. And we do a lot of carries. I get a good property for it. They can do laps out here, right? They'll come back. And then eventually we'll do something where I'll say, okay, here's an 18 pounder and your regular 10 pounder. And so now you still have 2 implements, just one's heavier than the other. And what I don't want them to do is this, where they're giving to the one heavy side. I want it to look like normal, like they've got this, because your groceries aren't always going to be even. The 2 bags of dog food, well, probably even, but they're going to be a little more difficult to carry, right? They're heavy, and they aren't a rigid implement for you to carry. Like, the idea is to learn to transition load, even if one side's a little heavier, other side's a little lighter. We're doing a lot of our lifting lately where we'll bench press a 15 and a 10, where we'll do RDLs holding a 20 and a 15. And after you get 6 reps, we'll switch the weights and we'll do 6 more. Because that's more like a representation of real life than just having 10 even pounds in each hand. Like, think about how rarely do you actually have an even load that you're lifting through the day. It's pretty rare. The majority of the time, the load's not equal. So why do we always train that way? We're always like at 10 pounds, it's always got to be even. Try to incorporate that in too. So we'll go even load, then I'll go uneven load, and then we'll get rid of one and we'll just do a suitcase. And the benefit from this, if I have a lower back limitation on the left side, by stabilizing and holding the weight on the right, I'm benefiting this lower back limitation, my hip limitation, my gait variation, my left shoulder, my right shoulder, my rhomboid, my neck. I'm benefiting all of that right now by just holding a weight on one side. I'm not even doing anything, I'm just holding it, okay? Where if I had the weight in the other side, I'd still have the benefit of holding and grip strength and my frame would feel it, but this weight counters the other one. And so I don't have to do anything where I'm like, don't fall over, right? Like I'm having to resist this side to not fall over and give to the weight. My engagement on this side keeps me square. So I know you know this, but when you think about it, hey, let's go do step ups. Just grab one 15-pound dumbbell, let's go, right? That benefit is greater than holding two 10-pound dumbbells, even if it's more weight. It's better to have a little bit less weight, but all on one side to benefit that individual, because you're going to get a lot of what we'll call unilateral strength development from this, which we will see a great deal of asymmetry from one side to the next. That's why people wobble, hobble, and limp when they're walking, because they have an asymmetry due to an injury. It's called the pebble in the shoe effect. You take a pebble, tape it into your shoe, and take 100 steps. Your gait at the 100th step will look different than your first one, because you start to manipulate how you move because of the pain in your foot. Now, this is happening because of their knee, because of their back, because of whatever. If I can start to build the strength to compensate that, they'll fix, okay? They'll start to improve. May not fix it, but we'll get closer, we'll get better. I knew there was a rant coming somewhere, guys. We got I was 52 minutes in. I tried my best not to go into one. All right, let's get back on track. Okay, split squats. Unload. What does unload mean? It means we're gonna take a knee. When you talk about developing pure strength, I don't know if you're gonna find a better one. So we're assuming your clients have built to the point where they can do a split squat, they can hold a load on one side. Whatever knee I'm gonna put down to unload, that's the side I wanna put the weight on to start. Because the back leg, the levering leg they're gonna push with, I'm gonna be able to load that one. So not only am I just touching and going, which you never, number one, never bang your client's knees on the ground. Like whoever started that, excuse my French, but you're an idiot, okay? Like whoever said like for it to count as a rep, you gotta bang your knee on the ground. If you ever rehabilitated someone with a spider break of their patella, it's the most painful and the most miserable thing to do, and it takes upwards of a year. And that happens because some jackass said, you gotta bang your knee on the ground to count it as a rep. Why don't we just get within an inch, right? Let's get within an inch of the floor and call it good enough, right? So I don't have to rehab you for a year because of this. Anyway, there's rant number 2. They came back to back. That was coming. All right, down, unload, take a knee, but on something soft. A couple, physio pads, AirX pad, whatever you got. When I say unload, I mean, you can hear it. It takes my weight and then I re-engage up. Takes my weight, I re-engage up. So what are we losing? We're losing that catapulting, eccentric, like that dynamic stretch to help me come back up. This is gonna get people damn strong really quick, okay? Yeah, it's gonna be hard, but it's gonna get them very strong very quickly because it's a pure strength effort every time they come up. So how do we bring this back a little bit? I'm gonna grab a band from any kind of high anchor. I can hold on to this while I hold my weight, okay, on the other side, and I can come down. I benefited eccentrically coming down, holding the load. Even though it got a little lighter, I'm still holding the load. I'm training my body, the idea of holding weight, etc. But the band, I can row in, and the band will help me up. I can let it out, eccentrically come down, unload, pull the band in, let it help me up, okay? By using this band from the top, either constantly held in or like I was doing where you ask for more help, it helps your clients with stability and balance. It helps them with confidence, knowing they've got something to hang on to. They're not just sitting out here in space, but they still have to coordinate the balance of holding themselves in space. Where if I just grab onto a post, I don't. If I touch a wall, a chair, a bench, anything that's fixed, I no longer have to go, woo, right? I got to coordinate. I can with the band. It still gives me help, but it doesn't do all of it for me. So it's a very good tweener exercise where, okay, maybe I'm not ready for this in space. okay? But I just need a little help, because as soon as I grab onto this, it's like, okay, I didn't have to do anything versus I can't do it. So what's my betweener? We'll go lighter. No, let's make this higher. No, let's just give them a little help. Let's give them 10, 15 pounds, something to steer with. When I need it, I'll pull it. When I don't need it as much, I'll let it out, okay? Very good betweener exercise. How do you make this harder? Elevate your front foot. Still have the same other pad on this side, but now where I would normally hit the pad here, oops, you guys can't see me, okay? Normally I would hit the other pad here. I'm gonna get to go an extra inch or two down. And by doing that, I'm getting a greater glute stretch on this front leg, greater hip flexor quad stretch on the rear leg by about an inch, which is significant when we're talking about split squatting and our ability to get a little bit deeper. And then the higher I make this, the harder it's going to be. I can make this a 4-inch or even a 6-inch step and really work on this range. And as long as you go all the way down, not banging your knee, but go to the contact of the pad that you're on, the benefit of it is there. But if I elevate 2 inches and I don't go down the extra 2, I keep doing my regular range of motion, what was the point? Okay, we'll get people that are like, hey, I'm doing it. You said go elevate it. I'm like, yeah, but it's the same range if you were just standing on the floor. Like, there's no point in being up here, right? So if you're going to elevate, still go deep. And that's the importance of the target of the back one, right? That's the importance of the second pad. Sorry, I should have had that. That's the importance of this guy is, okay, I'm elevated my extra 2 inches, but I still got to unload and make my contact, okay? And then I want to go a little more. I'm going to stack that up even higher. And then I'm going to put another 2-inch pad down here. I'd normally hit it there. I'm going to go a little lower because I'm elevated, and I can start to work this range. Now think of the benefit, balance, coordination, our gait. When you can build somebody doing this, okay, I just showed you a pretty advanced version of it, but we're not doing this anymore when we're walking, okay? That individual is getting used to the idea of opening their feet and taking a big gait. And what is a regular gait? 3 times their regular foot. There's 13 inches, there's 26 inches, there's 39 inches. From this heel to the front toe, that's my regular walking gait, not my first or second step. Those are projecting, right? They're trajecting you. Once you're into regular gait stride, that is my stride. 3 of my feet, from my back heel to my front toe. Now think about that when you see your clients walk in. This is not 3 of their feet. It's not even close. So there's a little bit of room for improvement, is my point. Okay, I have 2 minutes to do 3 exercises. Maybe give me a 10-minute window if you guys are good. If you have time, please, please. All right, this one's a fun one. Rotational row, super simple. 3 points of contact, 2 feet, 1 hand on the bench, okay? Rotational row, I've got my kettlebell. I like the kettlebell for this because the weight pendulum's underneath. I'm gonna engage my bench arm, okay? Keeping a little bend here. I'm gonna pack in my shoulder nice and tight. My palm is down. And then the corkscrew or the row, as I come up, I'm gonna rotate to supinated and then back to pronated. Supinated, pronated, okay? As opposed to just staying neutral the whole time. What's the benefit? What's the difference? The bicep engagement and the deltoid engagement. The bicep naturally wants to supinate due to its insertion on the medial aspect of the radial head of the forearm. A lot of people don't know that. They think it just does supination and flexion, but it does those 2 things at the same time even better if you do supination and flexion at the same time, or while rowing at the same time. And so we can benefit our client's ability to pull start or rake or lever lift or whatever the action is, where they continue to hurt themselves in the yard, in the kitchen, that kind of stuff. We can work on that rotational strength simply by performing a little more rotation on a regular row. This one, again, gets people very strong. And a way to challenge this and make it a little bit harder is to take it to the gorilla style row, where we are going to unload the weights at the bottom. So I'm going to have 2 weights and I'm going to sit into my hinge. I'm going to row right arm, but I'm corkscrew rotation. Remember the whole idea of taking away the eccentric, the catapulting stretch by just coming down and up, and not unloading weight at the bottom. That's really kind of the key to this, is when you're like, what really gets them strong? It's taking away the momentum. Not that momentum is bad. Remember, we talked about the styles. The first one, the first half of the reps, okay? I want those to be dynamic and explosive and quick, and I want you to use that stretch reflex. But the second half, okay, or if you're just gonna do some pure strength, try deloading, whatever the lift is. Like, it's really hard. Try laying on the floor and bench pressing, floor press, okay? And when you come, imagine I'm on my back. When I come down, you sit your elbows down on the floor and you shut it off for a second, and then you punch the weights back up. And then you come down, you set them down for a second, and you punch them back up, rather than stretch and go, right? Like when you watch somebody bench at a powerlifting competition where they have to touch the bar, pause, and then go, that person can do 225 like that, but they could do 350 if they're just bouncing it off their chest like every other person we see in the gym. I mean, it's a whole different ball game, momentum. So what does taking away the momentum do? It gets people damn strong. What's the whole purpose of getting them strong? So we make muscle mass and bone density, right? These are powerlifting, Olympic lifting, bodybuilding strategies that have been around for a long time, that have proven to benefit that demographic, but we're using it for older pops. Like nobody really thought of like, hey, let's just use it for these because it's going to give us the same result, more muscle, more bone, okay? Great benefit to this. Practice your deloads. Almost every lift, you have the opportunity to do it. Take away the momentum, work the pure strength. They're going to be pretty good benefit, okay? All right, we got that one. All right, the lineman deadlift. Lineman deadlift. I'm going to use a little bit bigger kettlebell for this, so my range of motion doesn't have to go as deep, and I look a little more macho, not picking up a little kettlebell. Okay. Basic component to this, why we call it a lineman. If you've ever watched an offensive lineman line up, they've got one foot staggered back as opposed to the other one, okay? So you see your right tackle, this is why this looks so awesome right now. Such a dick. All right, so I'm in my position, right? And I'm ready to get my athletic step out of here and pretend to be an offensive lineman. I'm just gonna deadlift from that. Stagger 6 inches, something like that, okay? So here's even. I'm gonna stagger my right foot back, turn my toes out a little bit. And then when I come down, I'm only gonna take the back leg. I'm only gonna do the single arm deadlift and return. Why only one hand? Grip strength. Huge component to this because we're pretty used to grabbing stuff with 2 hands. So where can you really improve your client's grip strength without having them grab stuff and do all this? Number one, rubber bands doing extensions around that to work the backside of all their grippers does monumental good work for them. That's one of the best things you can do. My clients come in, they lay down, they start bridging, I throw them rubber bands. They put rubber bands on their fingers, and while they're bridging and doing their eagles on the ground, they're doing finger extensors. And I just go until your forearms burn. Throw me the rubber band back, okay? And we got a couple sets of them, we do that. So that one helps a ton. Arthritis, medial lateral epicondylitis, all this stuff, okay? Now the beauty of this is I'm gonna work a slight stagger stance, which typically, okay, is going to put one hip in a little bit of a vulnerable position, usually the front hip, and the other hip usually in a little bit better position, the back hip, okay? Typically, some people have asymmetries, but most people, that's gonna be the case. So the hip that I put back is the one that I'm gonna give the weight to. That's the one that I'm going to feel a little more confident with. I'm gonna overload by putting all the weight into one hand, but what happens when we hold weight with one hand? Remember we talked about the carries at the beginning. I'm gonna start to build out all my asymmetries, my opposite side strength. So if my left hip is the weaker one and it's forward, and I stagger my right foot back and it's a stronger one, and then I grab the weight with my right hand and I pick it up, which hip just did more beneficial work? The opposite of where my load was. My left hip, left glute, left erector, all of that, my left dominant side is going to benefit from me holding the weight on my right side staggered, okay? Then I'll come down, I'll unload it, I'll re-engage, come up. I'll come down, unload it, I'll re-engage, come up. Why? Because I don't want to just stretch and go and work on my eccentric catapulting strength. I want to unload and then continue to build pure strength each time, because this gives me the practical application to real life. I pick this up, I carry it, I set it down, I go and pick that up, I carry it and I set it down. If you do an analysis of that, like watch your parents bring in the groceries next time, they take it from here, they put it in there, they take it in here, they put it in there. We do carries all day long. We just don't think of it that way because we're like, paper's not heavy, and grapes and apples aren't heavy, what this and that, whatever it is. We do carries and transfers all day long, but we don't train for those. We just train to pick up heavy stuff off the ground, push it over our head. You see my point? We need it to be more transferable to real life, to stuff we're doing out there. This is a pretty good one, okay? Currently working on an anecdotal in-house study where all of our deadlifts, anytime we're picking weight off the ground, we're only using one hand. I'll give you research, or I'll give you a review of that little anecdotal study here in a couple of weeks when we get done, okay? All right, so that's your lineman single arm deadlift. Our last one, how do we make that easier? Elevate the weight a little bit and or use both hands. How do we make it harder? Go heavier, okay? All right, now our last one, single arm snatch. Now, we talk a little bit about being explosive. Give me 4 minutes, okay? About being explosive. And we talked about doing the clean and press. The snatch is just a little bit more dynamic, where not only are you going to take a weight all the way over your head, but we're going to transition it from a little bit lower on the hinge. So my goal, we'll call this as a hinge high pull remedial, a close grip snatch intermediate, a single arm snatch advanced, okay? So here's my beginner, okay? I'm gonna do a full hinge, a full RDL below my knees, and then I'm gonna high pull to the chin. I'm gonna hinge and I'm going to high pull to the chin. Why am I saying high pull and not upright row? Because it's not an upright row. Upright rows create a V angle where my elbow's up and internally rotated. That's gonna pinch and hurt my shoulder. With a high pull, you pull up to the clavicle and then pull apart. You try to separate the weight, which externally rotates your shoulder, and it's beneficial. It creates more space, more beneficial, and it feels good for the shoulder that's impinged or weak, okay? So I'm going to deep hinge, up, pull apart, deep hinge, up, pull apart. And every parent that's ever picked up a kid, you're gonna see that action when you're picking up your kid, that movement over and over again. So this is a very functional lift for life. To make that a little more dynamic, now we're gonna throw the kid, okay? We're gonna hinge, we're gonna high pull and reach him all the way overhead. We're gonna throw him. We're in the pool and we're chucking that kid all the way overhead. That's intermediate. And then we go to a single arm and we will snatch it, okay? Hinge and snatch from there. Again, I'm showing with the dumbbell or with the kettlebell. We can do all these with the dumbbell. You can hold 2, hinge and high pull. We can hold 2, hinge and snatch. We can hold 1, single arm snatch and return, okay? All right, those are our lifts. The 5 that I think are gonna give you kind of the best bang for your buck, the strategies for implementing them and how to go about it. Just to kind of wrap things up here again, any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. With our programming, just to give you a little idea how we do it in-house, we have 4 different levels of everything: DLF, ADL, S&C, pure strength, and power. In each of those, the classes and the groups that we program for, they kind of progress, okay? That's something that we teach in-house, something I like to go through. And just to give you a little idea of like all the lifts, I know people look at this and are like, this is very overwhelming. It's actually not. It's a very simple, here's day 1, here's day 2, but here's also teaching progression 1, teaching progression 2, and it takes you all the way through these. This is what we do with our clientele to basically check off at some point that they have ability, that it's like, okay, this is a client's chance or a client's ability to, can they hinge? Okay, what's the next hinge? What's the next? What's 1A, 1B, 1C? And we'll work them across. But also it helps us design workouts at the same time. That is something that I teach you in TOA Select. And that's something that we offer where we have a massive exercise library. I have CEUs attached to it. We have our certification is built right into it. So you're either $79 a month or $99 a month. You can head to the website. I don't need to plug you forever on this. Head to trainingtheolderadult.com. Check it out. If you are interested in learning how we program, how we do all that, you can get TOA certified. You can become an ambassador. You can become a junior affiliate and eventually affiliate. If this is something that you do, is my bottom line, here's my point. If this is something that you do working with older adults and you want to get better at it and you feel like I could assist you in doing that, if you felt like you got good benefit from this, and you think that I'm someone you can learn from, please go to the website, check it out. Go to our YouTube channel, just punch in my name, Robert Linkle. I've got 100-something webinars there and videos you can look from. Follow us on social media. And if you get to the point where you're like, you know what, I want to get certified, I want to learn more. I've got mini courses, I've got program design templates. We have some of our affiliates and junior affiliates, ambassadors on here. We have individuals that are doing the programs right now. I hope that I can speak for them, and I think that I do. And by saying that these programs are great and they work well, and as you kind of progress through the program into junior affiliates and affiliates, you get to work with me on a weekly or a bi-weekly program and we do private mentoring. We offer all kinds of stuff to help you do this. So if this is your passion, it's something that you want to do. I bring 20 plus years of doing this and 15 plus years of teaching. I would be more than happy to assist you in doing that and teaching you the programs. I appreciate your time, number one, the most, and spending this last hour with me. And again, if anything in here was educational, groundbreaking, anything for you, if you wanted to grab a screenshot or take a picture or just post about it, I would really appreciate it. We're trying very hard to grow our presence in the fitness industry and get this message out to more fitness professionals. So any way that you could assist us in doing that in exchange for the last hour of content and such, I would really appreciate that. From the bottom of my heart, I would thank you. And if you do that, shoot me an email and say, hey, I posted, and I'll send you my articles. I have 5 new articles in the last 6 months or so that have come out. I'll send you all of them PDF. You can read away. Really good stuff. NSCA, PTQ, PFP, etc. They're all in there. So be happy to do that. Any questions? Feel free to fire away. I didn't see the chat button pop up, but I wonder, because nothing's on there, if I didn't activate it. So I see some hands popping up. William, let me allow to talk. William, you should be able to speak there. If you have a question, fire away. You will need to unmute. I will ask you to unmute.
Robert.
Yes, there you go. What's up, William?
Yes, thanks. I'm in Savannah, Georgia. It was a great seminar.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just wondering what you would recommend the must-haves for a home gym.
Ooh, must-haves.
The most basic things.
Our clients that do our in-house programming, they have to have a light and a medium kettlebell. They have to have a light and a medium pair of dumbbells. They have to have a super band set of the 1, 2, and 3. And it just kind of depends if it's Perform Better, it's orange, black, and yellow. If it's Rogue, it's yellow, red, and blue. They have to have a basic set of the super bands, the 41-inch bands.
Sure.
And between those 3 things, kettlebells, dumbbells, and the bands, and a door anchor, obviously, to hook the bands to, we can do pretty much everything.
Fantastic.
Outside of that, yeah, everything else is more of like wants than needs, but those 3 that'll cover the basics.
All right, well, I'm 90% there. I could easily order a set of the bands. I have one single band from somewhere, but I would prefer to have the set as well.
Yeah, I would go with Rogue bands, to be honest with you, and specifically the Echo bands. Very comfortable, super durable, and they've got a powder coat on them that is more comfortable for the grip than any other band that I've seen. So those are the ones we sell to our clients. Those are the ones I have in-house here.
All right, fantastic. Robert, thanks very much for that info.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you.
All right, anybody else questions? I thought I saw another hand pop up on here. Don't be shy, I've got time. You're all still here, you gotta have a question. Okay, Holly, here we go, Holly. Holly, you better be asking me about your shoulder.
Can you hear me, Robert?
I can hear you, hi.
Hey, I loved it. It was
Thank
inspiring. My shoulder is really gonna be a challenge. I can't wait to be able to do some of those pull apart things you just showed, and some modifications, because when I'm done with this rehab, I'm gonna go out there and teach every shoulder baby there is how to do your stuff. It's been rough.
You've had a very unique experience. If you all don't follow Holly, Holly is a superstar in our industry, number one, but just went through a pretty traumatic experience with a shoulder replacement surgery, and had some very bad reactions to the anesthesia, and then some bad bedside manner. She's documented all this on her social media, but is giving weekly and daily updates about her shoulder and sharing this all. And the value to all of this, I did the same with my hip, etc., is other individuals are now watching her go through this and go, I can learn from her. This is someone that's now experienced this process. I'm going to have a shoulder surgery, but they wouldn't know that if she wasn't documenting and sharing it all. And that's the beauty of coming in and being vulnerable, exposing what you are going through, sharing that, telling the truth, and not just going, oh yeah, it's all roses and butterflies, this is great. Sharing all that does so much more, and it's a personal thing that you can connect to. So I'll let you get to your question, but I'm very happy with with what you're doing, because I think our industry needs it, and I think that it's going to do really good things for you and your business as well.
Thank you, Robert. I got to correct you just a little. It wasn't a shoulder replacement. It was a reconstruction.
Reconstruction, copy. Okay.
4 major things redone, which is actually more invasive than an actual replacement. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So thank you for the plug. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. The wolves ate the nuns? Well, that sounds serious. All right, any other questions? Who else do we have up on here? Anybody? Now's your moment. Don't be afraid. Got a lot of people on here. Kevin, Kathleen, this is awesome. All right, well, I guess I will wrap up then unless I see any other hands pop up. I am happy to answer questions. I thank you again for your time and being on here. I will email out the PDFs of this presentation and send it out to all of you. You get that. Give me another, a day or two. I'll get it out before the end of the weekend for sure. I should get it out later this afternoon, but you never know with these little ones. And then again, if there's anything that I can do for you, assist you, help you, you name it. I'm happy to do little video chats, and I have a client who type of things are always my favorite. I love to troubleshoot and help you improve your abilities to coach your clients. So I am here to help. Appreciate you being here, and thank you. Have a great weekend. Take care, everybody. Love to all of you. Take care.